Thank you, Deputy Presiding Officer. It is my privilege today to sum up the debate on behalf of the Finance Committee. And in doing so, I would like to add my thanks to all of those who gave evidence, written and oral, and to our clerking team who at times had the very challenging job of coordinating some strong opinions. Deputy Presiding Officer, this is a very detailed report looking at a very complex subject which took almost 18 months to put together. Evidence was taken from a large number of expert witnesses from public sector bodies, legal and financial advisors, lenders and investors, academic and financial commentators, architects and designers, construction firms, project managers and trade unions. And I've deliberately read out the list just so you see how comprehensive it was. And as we've heard from today's debate, the subject matter is still a contentious issue. However, the purpose of the report was, and I quote, to identify major issues that should be considered in any approach to public capital investment, along with key points that should be addressed in the development of the Scottish Futures Trust to ensure it operates in an appropriate way and delivers value for money. Now, the committee found difficulties in providing comparable information on the life cycle costs for different methods of funding and procurement. And it was also clear from the evidence that there is no one-size-fits-all method. Despite that, I do believe that we did produce a balanced and informative document. And I say that even though Joe Fitzpatrick helped to draw up the report. And he was aided and abetted by Alex Neil, sadly no longer one of our number. However, I do agree with Mr Fitzpatrick on one thing, that not enough time was set aside to debate this issue today. The committee asked the Scottish Government to develop and publish a robust investment option appraisal framework capable of producing comparable information on whole life costs for future projects, regardless of which method of procurement is used. In his response to us, the Cabinet Secretary said that the Scottish Government would consider what further action they could take to promote more widespread and consistent use of whole life costing, and that is to be welcomed. The convener has already mentioned the recommendations on risk assessment. One subject that caused considerable comment was the practice of refinancing PPP-PFI projects, which in some previous instances had resulted in significant financial gains for the private sector. Again, the committee welcomed recent guidance from the UK Government on this matter and recommended the method for refinancing and sharing of any benefit should be transparent and equitable, ensuring the public sector got its due share. Presiding Officer, I believe the key paragraph in this document is number 129 on page 39. Unfortunately, as we heard from Des McNulty, it was the cause of division, but it was carried by 5 votes to 3. The paragraph states that the committee believes that a broad range of options for funding and procurement of capital projects should be in place. The committee notes the Scottish Government's decision to make non-profit distributing organisations, or NPDOs, the default form of private finance, and the statement in the value for money guidance that where NPDO is not suitable, other private finance models will be assessed. The committee recommends that public bodies should select the method of financing which delivers best value for the taxpayer. The committee therefore agrees by division that all methods of finance should be considered equally on their merits. A minority of the committee endorses the Scottish Government's position that the NPDO model should be the default option. As Mr Welsh said, much has changed in the short time since the report was published with that recommendation included. The Cabinet Secretary agrees value for money should determine the procurement model used. I have to say I'd been astonished if he'd said anything else. He also believes the NPDA model, which he says eliminates uncapped returns and direct surpluses for community benefit, offers a better deal. Now that is his view, but not one shared by the non-SNP majority on the Finance Committee. And in the current economic situation facing us today, I do believe that we were right to say that no method of public procurement should be ruled out. As I've said in the evidence, there is no one-size-fits-all, and the Government is instigating further work on whole life costing, further improvements on assessment of risk, and the committee welcomed recent decisions by the Scottish Information Commissioner to order the release of information on some PPP-PFI schemes and asked for a review of what information can be made public on all types of contracts to be as open and transparent as possible. Finally, Presiding Officer, I turn to the issue of the Scottish Futures Trust. In evidence to the committee, the Cabinet Secretary explained its purpose was about securing less expensive funding and also bringing a new approach to the organisation and packaging of infrastructure investment opportunities. We heard what he had to say, but we were unanimous in our view, as reported at paragraphs 296, 301, 308 and 315, that there is insufficient information to judge whether SFT will deliver improved value for money, whether it will be a centre of excellence, what role it will perform in managing a pipeline of projects, and what its accountability and governance responsibilities will be. In overall conclusion, the committee states, while it is the Scottish Government's view SFT will become a more attractive source of funding for national and local products, that has yet to be proven. The committee believes the current economic climate may make it more difficult to introduce a new funding model for capital projects. The committee therefore recommends no infrastructure projects, national or local, should be delayed or postponed pending the introduction of SFT funding. Presiding Officer, it is my pleasure to commend the Finance Committee inquiry into the funding of capital investment to Parliament and trust that the Cabinet Secretary and the Scottish Government will pay heed to its contents and recommendations. Thank you.